Hey, how are things? So, today we will be talking about this book called Supremacy by Parmi Olson, AI, ChatGPT, and the race that will change the world. So, as always, this is a chill presentation, like something that is not going to be so, let's say, not too much fuss, kinda. And yeah, we'll be talking about this amazing book. And I have to say that this is the winner of the 2024 edition of the Best Financial Business Book by Financial Times. And I have to present a little bit what is actually this award and what is this prize, let's say. So it was established in 2005 by the Financial Times. It received a sponsorship from Schroders, McKinsey, and Goldman Sachs. And the main thing that we have to know about this prize is the fact that they try to celebrate the more insightful and influential business writing across topics like management, technology, climate, finance, and economics. And a really important note is the fact that the winner received a prize of £30,000 and all the other, let's say, finalists receive around 10,000 each. Usually there are like almost 15 to almost 20 books for the entire year, and I have to say that in my opinion, just my humble opinion, this is kind of like the best thing to kind of like read the best books for, let's say, in those type of areas from one of the most, if not the most important business slash economics slash financial journals, which is the Financial Times. So just to start, I want to give a little bit of introduction to who is actually the author, because many times we don't know who is the person behind the book. And I think that it's important to give a little bit of a face to who is writing, but also to have a little bit of knowledge of the background. So this is Parmi Olson, and as we can see, she had quite a big experience in terms of writing, because she worked for Forbes for almost like 12 years as a staff writer. Then she had a senior position still in Forbes for 4 months until she changed to the Wall Street Journal, and then recently where she is still currently working at Bloomberg. So we can see that she has quite a big curriculum, and all those information are retrieved from LinkedIn, so you can find them really easily, but also you can find them by reading her papers, her articles, let's say. And this is actually the main book that we will be talking, which is Supremacy. So I have to say the cover is amazing, it's really nice. But talking about like serious stuff now, the book counts almost 16 chapters, and I did a little bit of let's say servation in just four main ones. I will be not talking about everything, every tiny thing of the book, especially because I think that it's such a good one that you should read it, especially because it flows so much. She has an amazing way of writing. Like, you know that she's a really good writer. So yeah, definitely you should check it out. But I divided the book in like four main parts, which are the founders, big players, trade-offs, and finally AI doom. So let's start by looking at the founders. The book basically kind of starts with giving us the very first introduction of Sam Altman, beginning his background and, let's say, kind of his evolution as both human being, but also as into more like his entrepreneurial side. So let's say how he went from education, but also to, let's say, the first working job, his working position. And the very first thing that appear from this book is that Sam Altman had like such a big personality in terms of like being so charismatic, be open, but also he had a huge interest in technology and to understand how things properly work. And this kind of led him to have quite a big passion for intelligence, artificial intelligence. On the same side, but on a different side of the country, because Sam Altman was in the US, meanwhile in UK, we have Demis Hassabis, which even though he was not, let's say, as charismatic as Sam Altman, he was a geek. So he was really good at chess, and he was also a really big fan of video games, so he made video games. So we have someone who's like a really bright and logical mind that was also, let's say, kind of like working with his hands deep down into, let's say, kind of like the programming world, which was basically making the video games. But him as well started to develop this really big passion for artificial intelligence, for those systems, and to understand how these can be used to actually like try and like to build something. And we see that both of them have three things in common. First of all, both of them, they had almost at the same time, which is really strange, but at the same time quite interesting, this really big passion for AI, and at the same time it was developing almost like on the same track. So both of them, they were like working in a way, in a little bit of a different way, because Sam Altman was working more into, let's say, kind of like innovation and, let's say, entrepreneurial side. Meanwhile, Demis Hassabis was working more into like properly understanding how our, let's say, mind works in terms of like doing a PhD, and then how to move those type of reasoning into the AI. So both of them, they were like developing, let's say, really interesting views on AI, but a little bit different, but on the same argument. Then both of them, especially at the beginning, had this view that AI should be used for the greatest good of humanity, which was to kind of like help all of us to kind of live a better life, but also especially to solve those who are like the biggest issues that we have worldwide talking. So financial, economics, but also world hunger, and many, many others that are really, really difficult to resolve in today's age, because every big problem has so many tiny problems that it's really difficult to solve them. And finally, both of them required a lot of investment, because developing AI at that time required not only economical and financial resources in terms of money, but also you needed bright minds, let's say still money to pay them, so bright minds, which were mostly either PhD students or like people already working in this field, or like people who are like deep into like programming or reasoning. Then you needed money for like infrastructure in terms of like graphic cards, CPU, in terms of especially the electricity, and a lot the space and things like that. So they needed a lot of money. And now we have, let's say, the second part, which is the big players. So since they needed a lot of money, both of them, Sam Altman with OpenAI and Demis Hassabis with DeepMind, they started to kind of like go for venture capitalists to ask for some money, let's say. And one of the very first big investors, because we have to say that both of them received some sum of money by other companies, by other private investors and venture capitalists, but they were never like enough money to be like, okay, everything is fine, perfect now. So a lot of them received money that was not just enough, until Microsoft stepped in, which was kind of like the big player, to kind of like give a lot of money to Sam Altman. Meanwhile, on the other hand, there was Google that had the same approach with the Demis Hassabis. So we see those really big players giving really big investments to those new companies trying to work on this new technology. But why? How so? So the very first thing to notice is that those players are kind of too big to fail. So if by any chance they will be working on something that is not as profitable, or like, let's say it's a product that is not as good, a service that is not as profitable, or things like that, this could have an impact on their share prices. So this could have a negative impact. So let's say that instead of developing something from them, from the inside, it will be easier to kind of invest in someone who's already working on this, and to slowly kind of buy them. And yeah, that was kind of the case, since they had a lot of financial, but also other type of resources to give to the both companies. So in this case, we have two big players trying to invest a lot into those new two type of companies that they're working with on the same type of technology. So we have this situation where the founders found themselves. This meant that they finally could invest even more in proper infrastructure, but also into acquiring the proper like bright minds to work for them, but also to use the proper, let's say, tools and so on. So that was the good thing. But at the same time, it's not that they received the money for free. The thing is that they received those money, but this came with the cost of actually losing this type of ownership, let's say, because at this point, Google and Microsoft, they were not giving, let's say, free money for the benefit of humanity or things like that, but like they were investing because they needed something to have back. So either in terms of ownership or in terms of products and services. And this is what happened, basically. We have the moment of the trade-offs. So the very first ones, we have the trade-offs for Microsoft from OpenAI. And they started to work on this large language model and on Copilot. On the other hand, for Google, since basically the real simple and real business model of Google is to actually sell ads, the main purpose of the platform is to keep you as long as possible, both on Google search but also on YouTube. So the main purpose was to actually use AI to have even better suggestions and also to anticipate even more what would be like the preferences of the customers, to keep them even longer on the platforms to receive more ads. Then we have, let's say, the final chapter, which is AI Doom. So the thing is that, is everything gonna like fall apart because AI, what if it becomes smart, maybe too smart, so smart they will be saying that maybe humans are not so smart, so we might have to rip them? Well, let's say that at the moment, and especially according to the author, this is not the case, because the intelligence that the AI is having is not actual intelligence. It's almost like the thing, the suggester that will suggest you like the words on the keyboard. So if you're writing something, that they will say this is the best word that will follow. So it's not actually super intelligence. It's actually like kind of like taking track of like your habit of how you speak, how you type, and what type of phrases you say at this time and with these people and so on. So it becomes kind of like smart at predicting things, but like not actually smart in terms of thinking. It means that AI at the moment is not so smart and so dangerous, but who knows? So there are a lot of biases, and especially because with the very first models, when you will ask ChatGPT, describe me a person who works finance, like economics or something like that, they will describe a white man. If you will ask what is like the description of a nurse, they will give the description of a woman. And if you will have asked the description of a thief, or like someone who's doing like illegal things, they will give you the description of a black person. Okay, so this is the very first thing, and those biases are still there, like there are still subtle biases. Meanwhile, the second one is that it costs so much, both infrastructure, people, energy, resources, everything costs so much that now we are basically reaching a plateau of things. Then we have finally the fact of the lobbying. Even though Sam Altman went to the Congress to say, oh yes, AI could be dangerous, could be like something real, we have to be real careful, and the Congress is right, he was also kind and brave enough to say that you can trust me because I'm gonna have the best interest of the people and I'm gonna like take care of this. Would you really? And especially nowadays that AI is receiving so many funds, public funding especially, both in America, in China, but also here in Europe, it feels like basically they're like receiving all those funds, but like those funds are being used as well to kind of like push towards less regulation. Like we know in America, the motto of the Silicon Valley of to go very fast and then adjust later. But going very fast was kind of like the same thing with the social media, and we saw the impact of social media, especially Facebook, Instagram, and so on. And did they resolve something? Did they repair things? I don't think so. They started with like, oh yeah, we're gonna help humanity, we're gonna be transparent, the main goal is to actually help people. They are not making public almost anything in terms of like how the algorithm works, how the coding works, what's the code and things like that. Actually, even though this comes from America and Europe, the most, let's say, transparent one was actually from China, from the DeepSeek. But like that's another thing, which is open source. But anyway, that's another thing, because a lot of secrets are being kept, especially in terms of like how they have been training the models, what type of resources, what type of, let's say, information that are used, and so on. And then finally, we have the final and most important incentive, which is money, because both Microsoft and Google, and both OpenAI and DeepMind, are being made at the final of the day, maybe to actually help us humans, but mostly to kind of like reach the goal of being profitable, to make money. Because even though OpenAI started as non-profit, it is still non-profit and so on, everyone that has quite a tiny stake in it, they're quite incentivized to make it for profit, so they can sell their stake and become really rich. And people working in AI as well is one of the most well-paid sectors. So yeah, are we doing this for like helping the humanity, or like are we doing this because it's really, really profitable? We don't know. Finally, even though the situation is described a lot in the media, by politics, by the news and things like that, as AI is, oh my gosh, everything is gonna be in fire, the author of this book and many other people, they think that at the moment the situation is kind of like this, which is actually not that smart, the AI, but it's just something that it still needs a lot to actually like be important. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it that you watched this video till the end. It was an amazing book, and I finished it, and it was like really easy to read. And even though I finished already like the book of 2023, I think it's gonna take me a little bit to kind of read the other books, especially because I'm reading a little bit of fictional books as well. I'm finishing Dostoevsky. I need those type of books to kind of like keep my mental health. So not just business, we're not just business into business and that's it. But yeah, thank you once again for watching this video, and I'm gonna see you at the next one.